Okay. So hello and welcome to everyone. I'm back kind of in my own place, but uh, I'm not sure if some of you know, but Chuden Rinpoche, who was one of Lama Zopa Rinpoche's teachers as well, today is his enthronement. And so we're actually hosting some people here at the house. So the normal place where I do the first lecture in our kind of puja room, there's some people staying there. So here I am in the office. So not as interesting a background. All right. In any case, this is unfortunately the fourth and therefore the last session of this brief course that we've been doing now, organized by the good folks at Thupten Norbuling, about be your own therapist. And so I think everyone here has been to the previous sessions, right? Scarlett didn't have her camera on, but I just saw her
Yes.
enjoying some,
Yes.
enjoying some with chopsticks. So in any case, just by means of a very, very, very brief review, so we get all on the same page and put ourselves in the context, that the whole starting point of Buddhism is this observation that all beings want to have happiness and fulfillment and want to avoid suffering. But the strategies that we've been using in the early part of our lives before we met Dharma was mostly focused on the external world. And well, one of the main problems with that is that, then we aren't in control of so many things on the outside. And therefore, if our hopes are pinned on, someone else liking us, well, we can't really, control how other people feel. If it is about, gaining wealth, then, of course, even despite our best efforts, then, there can be a bad investment decision. There can be, crop failures or whatever have you. So that's one thing we have to keep in mind. And the other one being, of course, even if we arrange the external world to our liking, still there's no satisfaction. And although we might want to, become a millionaire, then once we, achieve that goal, then we're going to want 2 million. If we want, one house, and then we're going to want our summer vacation house or whatever it is. And also, even when our mind is disturbed, then those very things that usually can bring us enjoyment, then won't bring us the same amount of enjoyment if our mind is uncontrolled and angry, and we're overcome with these negative emotions. And therefore, I think this is the starting point. These observations is the starting point of Buddhism, and it is also the starting point, probably the deep motivation why you started to study Dharma, why you came to attend this course. And so even this word or the title of the course, be your own therapist, has a connotation that ultimately it is up to ourselves to take care of our minds and upgrade the minds, develop the minds to bring this lasting sense of happiness and well-being. And so, that's basically what we covered in the first. And then in the second session, then following along with this. Well, if we now want to be our own therapist, what do we have to do? So just like when we go to a therapist, we sort of talk about, what's been going on in our lives, and they can then come and sort of diagnose some of the negative emotions and patterns that we're involved in. Well, here within Buddhism, this practice of mindfulness, then it is, many kinds, but in essence, it is directing our attention to our internal world and, see what's going on, both in our bodies, but also within our minds. And this is quite an essential practice because, before we know how to treat a certain ailment, we have to get a proper diagnosis. And although when we go to a psychotherapist and talk about things, they get some inkling into what's going on in our internal world based on the words we say and how we are describing our experiences. But ultimately, the mind is very subjective, and it's basically up to us to be able to know how we feel and check in with that internal emotional world. So it is the practice of mindfulness where we direct our attention inward and we can see, what is going on? Are we, experiencing anger or disappointment or happiness or itching or heat or hunger? All these things. It's a quite internal subjective process, right? You wouldn't ask someone else, hey, am I hungry? You have to go in and check your own internal emotional world, right? So in the second session of this series, then we talked about the practice of mindfulness, and we introduced a method by which we can gain mindfulness and awareness of the body and mind. And then we continued by saying, all right, actually, in the throes of negative emotions, then it's actually very hard to apply the antidotes. But by gaining some distance between yourself and the and the negative emotion like anger or jealousy, right? That can help. Even before we apply a full antidote, it can help to decrease the momentum and not add fuel to the fire of those negative emotions. And particularly when we get upset, it's like, well, if you're anything like me, I like replay and think about all the reasons why this person has harmed me and how unfair it is, and just tell this story in my mind. As I do that, I get more and more agitated and upset, and if I don't put that in check, I'll there's a risk that full-blown anger will arise. So at least by taking a step back and just being aware that now, anger has arisen. And as I was saying, get into the body and say, okay, where is that anger manifesting? Okay, I feel some heat in the neck. I feel some tightness in the chest, whatever it is. Going in then to the physical sensations of the anger, rather than the story behind it and how unjust they've been and how mean they've been and all this. It can help to diffuse some of the momentum behind it. Okay. Then last week we then talked about, okay, after we then have some distance between the kind of proximate causes that provoked us and made us upset, then we can turn with a little bit of a wisdom eye and use what we were calling this analytic meditation, whereby we can, think about the situation in a different way, and particularly try to put some active antidotes towards whichever affliction has arisen. And at the beginning, with anything we're trying to do, a new habit, it's going to, not be that effective, honestly. But with any habit, we do it over a long period of time and put in the consistent effort, and then we will see some results over a longer time frame. Okay, so let us continue then with where we left off. So last week we were talking primarily about the two main afflictions of anger and attachment. And the first thing in getting to a remedy is to understand the drawbacks and the faults of those afflictions. So that is what we had covered last week. Okay. Oops. Right. Can you see this? Okay. Okay. So here we've gone through the faults of attachment. And then we wanted to talk a bit about the actual antidotes to anger. So, so basically what I have drawn from here for this slide are the outlines in the patience chapter of Lamrim Chenmo. And do you guys know Lamrim Chenmo? So the great stages of the path to enlightenment, written by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And so within that, okay, he goes through the sort of outlines how to deal with our anger and practice patience, which is the antidote to anger. And therefore, what Lama Zopa Rinpoche did is he himself drew from the great Indian master Shantideva's Bodhisattva Charivatara, which is sometimes translated the guide to a bodhisattva's way of life. So have you also heard of this treatise? Great. So basically, it's like this. You'll see these come up again and again in the Lamrim, but the outlines. And so I myself, it was a little bit new because we don't really use this so much in kind of Western texts. But as I've worked with them more, I think I've grown to appreciate that these outlines can be very helpful because just within one page, it gives you the kind of bullet points. And we might not be able to memorize a whole text, but even by keeping these kind of points in mind, then we can use that for our practice and to deal with our minds. So basically, when we get angry, how is it appearing to us? It appears that we are totally justified in our response because that person, they did this to me, they did that to me, they did this to me. Therefore, they're a bad person and I'm justified to be upset with them. And because I'm justified to be upset with them, I'm also justified to, if they harm me, it's appropriate that I harm them back, right? That's kind of the basic story that anger is telling us. So now, what Shantideva and later Lama Zopa Rinpoche are trying to say is, and show to us, is that actually in these situations where we are harmed by others, well, not only is anger unjustified, but compassion, the kind of almost the opposite of anger, is appropriate. Okay, so this is turning our normal story on its head, right? And so because we are sort of habituated to anger, actually, and we're habituated that when we are harmed, we want to harm back. When we are provoked, then we kind of lose our cool, and we're not thinking naturally that, yeah, I should have compassion for this person who has just harmed me. Then we have to sort of rewire our habitual reaction. Okay, so here we do this, and you see in these next bullet points, right, on the analysis, right, of the object, on the analysis of the subject, on the analysis of the basis, right. So here we were talking about the analytic meditation before, right, where we use our analytic mind and we try to gain insight that hadn't been there before. Okay, so basically, in showing that anger is unjustified, we're going to reflect in these three ways. So I will say, right, these it's kind of like medicine, right? So sometimes we have another kind of condition where we're allergic to medicine. Sometimes one type of medicine won't work because of, say, antibiotic resistant bacteria or whatever, right? So what we're doing in learning about Dharma is we are, as it were, building out our toolbox. And these tools, right, just as when we have some kind of problem in the house that needs fixing, say the faucet's leaky, right, we might need a certain kind of tool for that. If on the other hand the door is squeaky, right, we'll need another kind of tool. We'll need to do something else, right? So sometimes in a particular situation, one kind of analysis, one kind of antidote to the anger is going to work better than another. So at our stage right now, we're going to learn about these different tools, and then it's sort of up to us to see in our experience and our practice which one is going to be more effective. Okay. So with that said, on the analysis of the object, and anger is unjustified. So the object then is that person who's harmed us. Okay. That person who's harmed us. So normally we might think, that person is such a bad person, such a, I don't know, I could use worse words, right? And usually we think that, right? This person is like that, and therefore we're justified to be angry at them, right? So here, then we have 4 further reflections, right? And first, analysis of whether the object has self-control. Okay, so in the Bodhisattva Chayavatara by Shantideva, there's a kind of thought experiment that he gives. He says, okay, so this person who's been angry at us, right? We might think that they are, in control, means they decided to harm us, right? But actually, when we think about those times when we've harmed others, and maybe it's easier to see when we get angry. I don't know. Did we think, okay, now I'm going to become angry? No, right? For me, anger is not. It's not fun. It's not a wholesome state of mind. I don't like being angry, and so of course, since I haven't, fully subdued my mind, I don't, choose. It's more like certain external circumstances provoke me, and then this mind of anger arises, right? So, yeah, in this way, seeing then this other person also, they're probably not a Buddha. They're probably not, an arhat, and so it's only that they too have experienced certain causes and conditions, and therefore the self-control has arisen. So on a very kind of deeper level, it's kind of like in in the Bible, or it says, right, love love the sinner, or sorry, hate the sin, love the sinner, right? So in a similar kind of way, we see that this person themselves is not in self-control. They are rather under the control of their afflictions, right? And yeah, the kind of advice that is given is to think like sort of like a doctor in, say, a mental ward, where the patient, um, because they're delusional, or because they are senile even, they might even like grab a scissors and try to harm the medical staff, right? These things happen. But those medical professionals, they'll see, oh, well, the person isn't in their right mind, and therefore not get angry at the other. Of course, they'll try to, help bring the person back under control. But it's even doing that without a sense of being angry at them. Okay. So actually, on a very more fundamental level, right? Um, Probably until we are very advanced in the path, probably until we have direct realization of emptiness, and have gotten some very powerful antidotes to our afflictions. On a deep level, we're all a bit, we can say, mentally ill. Okay. Yeah. Actually, according to the highest tenet system within Buddhism, the Prasangika, or the consequentialist middle way school, everything that appears to our sense consciousness is appearing in a sort of distorted way, right? So that's why, by the way, when you read other Buddhist texts, they'll say, view everything like a dream, like an illusion, like a mirage, because the way things appear to us and how they actually exist are not the same, right? So on a very real level, the Buddha is saying, we're basically living in a hallucination all the time. And therefore, when we have strong adherence and believe that how things are appearing to us are in accord with reality, then our actions will also only be good, as as they say, garbage in, garbage out, right? So, like that. Yeah. In the Lamrim Chenmo, there's a nice statement by the Indian master Chandrakirti. So, when we are harmed, to think this is not the living being's fault, rather it is the fault of the afflictions. Okay. So, similarly to hating the sin, loving the sinner, right? So the learned analyze and do not fight with others. Yeah. So this is great. And Shandideva, he also says, while under the control of their afflictions, some people will kill even themselves. So how can you expect them not to harm the bodies of others? Okay. So here we know, right? When people are very, distraught, and when their minds are overcome with afflictions, they'll even, commit suicide. So of course, when they are, under the throes of their afflictions, of course they'll harm others. Okay. So that is basically, in brief, analysis of whether the object has self-control. Then analysis of whether for either adventitiousness or inherency. So adventitiousness, this is a word that I only really came to learn. You'll see it again and again within the Buddhist commentaries. So, normally I teach in India, and some people, English isn't their sort of first language, but even for native English speakers, this is a very rare word to come across, right? So we understand adventitious. So here, we'll explain. So Shantideva asks us to say, all right, okay, so this person who's then harmed us, all right, is it in their nature to harm, or, right? The analogy for adventitious is like smoke in the sky, right? Smoke in the sky. So the sky isn't always smoking, but if some causing conditions arise, like there's a fire, then smoke can arise in the sky. Okay. Or, right, inherent, is it like part of the nature of that sentient being to be unruly, to be, rude, or whatever it is that they've upset us, right? Okay. So those are our two choices. So Shantideva says, okay, if doing harm to others is natural for the childish, it is wrong to get angry at them, just as it is fire's burning nature. Okay. So this is, if sentient beings are inherently, rude, bad, inconsiderate, mean, whatever it is, okay, then it's in the nature of that person. So like fire's nature is to be hot. Okay. So just like, we don't get angry at fire for being hot, we just, understand that it's their nature. Then, these childish beings, then of course, if it's in their nature to be unruly and so forth, then it's like, well, okay, what do we expect? Right. So it's inappropriate to get angry in that sense. If, on the other hand, adventitious, so Shantideva says, still, if the fault is adventitious and the nature of beings is good, my anger is wrong, just as it is anger at smoke's appearance in the sky. Okay. So, yeah. So actually, if we think, okay, no, beings are naturally good, but, sometimes they, adventitiously get, are rude or unruly or, inconsiderate, then still we wouldn't be justified to be angry, right? We would just say, oh, okay, they're having a bad day. Their nature is good, but they're just temporarily upset. So I shouldn't be taking this as the truth, this wrong thing they did, but rather look at the big picture and look at their sort of innate goodness. Okay. Now, I should mention, remember, we're building out our toolkit. Even in the text, Shantideva and Lama Tsongkhapa, they both say that first one, where the object has self-control, is going to be the most powerful one, right? And for me, in my experience, it was very useful for me to use the mindfulness and introspection at the times when I got angry, and really think of how, sometimes I even knew, like, I really shouldn't say that thing to them. I was like, biting my lip, but I ended up saying it. I paused for a while, but then, like, I couldn't control myself at the end, right? So if this has happened to you, then, it can help understand how other people harm us, and therefore at least have a bit of empathy and compassion toward them. Okay. So 3, analysis of whether the harm is direct or indirect. So here again is a nice analogy that Shantidevi says, right? So he says, okay, if we are hit by a stick, okay, the direct thing that harmed us is the stick, right? Right? That's the one that hit us. So do we get angry at the stick? No, right? We get angry at the person wielding the stick. Okay. All right. So if that's the case, right, although what has directly harmed us is the stick, we are somehow, we know, don't get harmed with the stick, because, the stick wasn't in control. The stick was being wielded by another person. Okay. So here, Shanideva says, the stick and so forth directly cause the harm. But if I am angry at the one who throws it, then since hostility impels them, it is better to get angry at hostility. Okay. So in a similar way, right, the person herself, as it were, is being wielded by their afflictions, and therefore is causing the harm. So again, to dig deeper and understand that the root cause of the harm is that person's own afflictions. Okay. All right. So last one, analysis of the cause that impels the harm doers. So here is tying in with the Buddhist notion of karma, right? And so we'll talk about it in a second. First, the stanza from Shandideva. He says, I at a former time inflicted harm such as this on living beings. Therefore, it is fitting that I, who hurt others, should receive this harm. Okay. So, yeah, it's slightly problematic, but let's just first describe this Buddhist notion of karma, which is that everything that we experience, and especially our experiences of happiness and suffering on a mental level, are the effects of our good or wholesome and negative actions that we've accumulated in the past. Okay, that is the view of karma. It's a kind of cause and effect on this mental level. Okay, and that's why there's such an emphasis on abandoning negativities and doing good deeds. Okay, because of the ripening experiences that they will impel in our lives. Okay. So I'm not sure. Did we talk about Buddha last week and talk about, maybe it was another teaching I gave. In any case, some of you might know, but the Buddha's cousin, Devadatta, was very jealous of the Buddha and was always trying to undermine the Buddha, discredit the Buddha, and even a few times tried to kill the Buddha, right? So one time there was a sort of crazed elephant, and Devadatta unleashed this elephant, thinking that the elephant would, go on a rampage and kill the Buddha. But as it turned out, as the mad elephant approached the Buddha, then due to the power of the Buddha, was subdued, and then actually came to sort of kneel, sort of bow in front of the Buddha, right? So the point is, right, the Buddha, who is completely purified the mind of all the afflictions and all the karma, it's actually the Buddha doesn't experience any kind of suffering at all, right? And even, you know, whereas if I am, you know, insulted or disrespected or whatever, right? There's a chance that afflictions will arise. There's a chance that suffering will arise, right? But for the Buddha, you know, it is said one time, even when he was given some during a kind of time of famine, he was given some very, very you know, basic food, right? Kind of the akin to sort of animal feed, right? Like not tasty at all. And Ananda, the Buddha's disciple, was very sad at this scene, thinking, "Oh, isn't it so sad that you know the great Buddha has now been reduced to eating this basically animal feed?" And the Buddha, seeing this, said, "Oh, Ananda, here, why don't you try a spoonful of this?" And Ananda took it, and it was the most delicious food, like that he had ever tasted. So basically, this is kind of the through the power of the Buddha totally purifying the mind. Then, you know, even what we would experience as being basic and not tasty, that's also due to our karma. But the Buddha, um, yeah, totally purified the mind. Therefore, everything is experienced in the nature of great bliss. Okay, right. So that's what I wanted to say about that. So there is this statement, you know, that even although in Buddhism they have the hell guardians, there's the hell realms and all this, but even those hell guardians, they are created by our own mind, right? There's no, they're it's kind of like in a dream, right? When we experience something in a dream, it's just the ripening of our own imprints in our mind, right? So, yeah, an analysis of the cause that impels the harm doers, it is bringing up this concept of karma. But I should note that this is important. This isn't then to sort of blame the victim. And certainly when people are harmed, we don't then go and tell them, "Oh, it's your fault. It's your karma, all this," right? So, I'm not sure. Some of you might have heard of Richard Dawkins. He's this. I think he was at Oxford, but a scientist, and later he came to write this book, The God Delusion. Right, The God Delusion. He's part of this this movement that came out in you know, relatively recent years. The New Atheists, the New Atheists, where whereby they are trying to sort of yeah, actively get this thought of atheism more in the mainstream. And anyway, in the God Delusion, he's mostly talking about the bad effects that the Judeo-Christian sort of worldview have had in the world, but he devotes a small little anecdote from the Buddhist world, where he says, well, he relates this story when he was traveling in Thailand. They come across a beggar, and his host, who is Thai and Buddhist, then you know, doesn't give money to the beggar, saying, "Oh, it's their karma to be poor, therefore I'm not going to help them." Right. So this actually isn't the proper view that a Buddhist should take. Although it is their karma that, yes, they are poor, but that doesn't then mean because of that we don't help them. Do you understand? Because actually, when you take a deeper view of karma, since the mind is beginningless, we've had beginningless lives, and we all have had, we all have countless imprints, both positive and negative. So this person right now, yes, they have the karma to experience poverty, but they also have definitely practiced generosity in their past life. And so even from the side of the view of karma, that is not fixed, right? And karma is not like punishment. And so from the side of the person experiencing some kind of suffering, then even though there is some karmic forces in play, from our side, we should have compassion. We should try to alleviate the suffering, as much as we're able. Okay. All right. Oh, wow. So I'm looking at the time. We're almost out of time. So let me just go through this on the analysis of the subject. Okay. So the subject is me, right? Or right? The person who is about to get angry. Okay. So here, it's kind of taking into account this sort of flip side of anger, right? Sorry, meaning, okay, if we are so, if it's so unbearable to experience this suffering right now, okay, we think, oh, I'll harm the other person, I'll teach them a lesson, they won't harm me in the future. Actually, when we look at karma on a deeper level, what we're doing then by retaliating is just creating the causes for further suffering. You see? Right? So on the analysis of ourself, to think that anger is unjustified, then is to say, okay, if I don't want to suffer, then what do I have to do? I have to stop doing negative actions. And therefore, in this situation, I should also not harm. I should not retaliate. Okay. So last, on the analysis of the basis, anger being unjustified. So analyzing the causes of harm and where the fault lies. Here again, check if this line of thinking will work for you. But Shantideva says basically, for someone, okay, I'll just read the stanza. He says, okay, his sword and my body are both causes of suffering. He obtained the sword, I've obtained the body. At which should I be angry? If, blinded by craving, I have obtained this abscess with a human form so painful that it cannot bear to be touched, with whom should I be angry when it is hurt? Okay, so basically what this means, right? He brought the sword, I brought the body. Means I, due to, my karma and the fact that I am not liberated from samsara, right? That's why on a fundamental level, I'm suffering. If I were, liberated, means abandoning causes of suffering, it would be impossible, for suffering to arise in my mind. Even, right? If someone insults me, even if someone, stabs me, even if someone kills me, the people without, who are liberated from samsara, they won't, experience suffering. Okay. So that is analyzing the causes of harm and where the fault lies. And then analyzing your commitment. This means, especially in the context when we're trying to be, Mahayana practitioners, trying to become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings, then what that means is we don't want sentient beings to experience even the slightest suffering, right? And therefore, we don't want to cause that suffering, even to the beings who have harmed us. Okay. And then showing that compassion is appropriate. Basically, this is then, thinking about their karma. So thinking that on some fundamental level, it's because we have these negative karmic imprints that then they are now harming us. So Shantideva says, well, in this sense, aren't we playing a role in their downfall, right? And then seeing that how by harming us now, they're going to be experiencing, suffering in the future, then to have this mind of compassion toward them. Okay? So in any case, this is just a very brief way going through some of these outlines. But by all means, there's a lot on this topic. So as I mentioned, you'll look in the patience chapter of Lamrim Chenmo or the patience chapter of Bodhisattva Chayatavatara, and all of these outlines will be explained in more detail. But in any case, I hope at least you got some notion about how this analysis and this analytic meditation can help to act as antidotes to anger. Okay. Right. So this is the following on to this last point, right? Thinking, here's from Nagarjuna's letter to a friendly letter. If you reflect again and again, just as I have not transcended illness, aging, death, and loss of the pleasant, so my karma and its results are my own doing. You'll overcome arrogance because you'll be applying its remedy. So we were saying how, the mind fundamentally is the creator of all of our experience. And so basically, the ones who have transcended illness, aging, death, loss of the pleasant, these are the ones who've attained nirvana, right? So it's only when we attain nirvana that we'll truly be free from all suffering, right? And so since we haven't achieved nirvana, then of course, we're going to experience all these kinds of suffering, right? I see. Right. And these are some of the, right. This is, I had read this earlier, right? Previously, I caused similar harm to sentient beings. Therefore, it is right for this harm to occur to me, who is the agent of harm to sentient beings. Okay. Anyway, I had read these. So now let's go through the antidotes to attachment just a little bit, and then I'll open it up to questions. So basically, right, attachment comes, it's like the flip side of anger. Anger is when we have an object that harms us, and then we have aversion. We don't want to be with that object. Then attachment is the reverse, right? There's an attractive object that we then want to come to possess, to cling on to, right? So the main sort of antidote to attachment is this meditation on impermanence and death. And I think Shantideva, again, he invites us to recall, a person who's had a dream where they were a marvelous king or queen for 100 years, and they enjoyed everything in the palace for 100 years in the dream. And then someone who just had a dream that they were, king for a day, right? So both of them, when they wake up, it's like all those dream experiences of pleasure will have no essence and wouldn't have done anything sort of ultimately of benefit, right? So similarly, whether we enjoy these sensory experiences, for 100 years, living out the rest of our life in the lap of luxury, or, just for a day, or maybe not even experiencing that, at the time of death, the only thing that will go on with us are the imprints of the positive and negative actions that we have accumulated in this life. And if we have, worked hard and gained realization into bodhicitta or emptiness, something like this, then also those imprints will, for some, then it'll just take a little push in their next life, and those imprints will activate, and they'll have all those realizations again. Yeah. Anyway, then meditating on the faults of the object, to think, during when we have strong attachment, we are totally exaggerating the object as being, 100%, good and attractive. But that, again, as we said, is just based on a sort of hallucination. And actually, there's nothing perfect in samsara. And so to have a more balanced view of the object and to think about the faults. When we think about the faults of the body, then, Shantideva lists these 32 impurities of the body, even the most, beautiful man or woman, right? They have boogers, and they have, sweat and smell bad, and produce, well, what comes out at the end of the digestive process, right? So the body actually is quite impure. And then thinking ultimately unsatisfactory nature of the object. This is, even the best food. If we eat it, then after a few hours, we'll be hungry again. And then non-true existence of the object. So even the object itself, it's not that the beauty is inherently established in the object, but is, again, just labeled by our mind. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So thinking in that way can help to, loosen and take some of the force out of our attachment. So we have a few minutes left. So sorry I had to kind of, go at a quicker pace, but I did want to open up for questions. And in any case, what can you expect in 4 weeks? So we give a little overview of the sort of principles at work within Buddhism. And by all means, I would encourage you to further your study and your practice by continuing on with reading some of these books and the many programs and courses that are being arranged by Thubten Norberling. So at any rate, if you have some questions, I can try to address now.
I just have a comment. In my previous career, I've been punched and kicked by people with mental health issues, and it's a lot easier to take than people who don't. But keeping that in mind, keeping it in mind that we are all a little mentally unhealthy definitely helps, because that's something that's been kind of foremost in my mind is, how do you, it's easy when somebody who's not well injures you, but when somebody who is, healthy does, it's a lot harder to take. So thanks for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, there is the other thing that's not explicitly, mentioned in this context, but in other contexts, it's this thought that, our anger, it fundamentally harms us, right? So it's like holding the hot stone or the hot piece of coal, right? So when we're angry, it's harming us. Yeah. Any other questions? Michael, I saw you unmute your mic.
I was going to say that I know that it doesn't always come across as kind and complimentary, but isn't karma really? Yeah, back in my face, I did it. I got what I in the West. I think we kind of think karma is you get what you deserve, right? And that's not karma. But yes, if I am experiencing something, it's because I have created. It's not because you've created any of my causes and conditions, not because Shayla did or Scarlett did or anybody else did. It's because I created the causes and conditions for this to ripen. And so I would never say to somebody, "Well, that's your karma. You got it." Because, but I think about that all the time on my own, right? I brought this onto myself. So what am I going to do about it?
Yes. So that is a healthy way of thinking about it, right? But it is quite slippery. And many times in my own experience teaching beginner courses, where there are people who, might have been, abused or experienced some very deep kind of harm, even hearing this can be difficult for them because they're then thinking that it's like blaming the victim, right? So of course, with a broader view, it's recognizing, our own role in the experiences that we have, right? So that it's kind of, yeah.
And then, as you said, meditating on the impermanence of that, whether it's through meditating on death or meditating on the impermanence of, or the value of, or the non-nature of, it's still meditating on the impermanence of that.
Yes, right. So I totally agree. And so if you've already, it's kind of like this, right? If you've already been studying for a while, if you've assembled your toolkit quite well, you'll be able to handle this in a little bit more nuanced way, where you can kind of separate out the the view of karma and not getting into sort of blaming yourself, but taking responsibility. That's a very great way. But someone newer, while they're still assembling their toolkit, might need a little bit these kind of disclaimers and say, that doesn't mean, although there is karma, that isn't then to say that people don't harm each other, right? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you. And so I'm just realizing now that our time is up.
Your next class starts.
My next class starts. Yeah. So I wanted to thank all of you for attending, and also the good folks at Tubden Oberling for the invitation. I wish you all the best in your continued study and practice, and this journey that we're all on to gain authentic happiness and well-being. So, namaste, tashirle, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Okay.